while you are telling the truth, and when you tell a lie, you put the very tacky oath.
We've used a polygraph before, but we are not remotely qualified to do it for something this serious. I think we need to find an expert, somebody who works with the police or the FBI or something.
Well, we have a few friends in law enforcement. Let's go down to the South San Francisco PD and ask them for a few tips.
So, first up is off to the cop shop. Because if they're going to test techniques to beat the lie detector, they want to know the optimum conditions for a real polygraph test. Lieutenant Varney's recipe for polygraph success has 4 key ingredients. 2 long hours in a sterile, distraction-free location cover the first 2.
Third issue is that of bias. We really don't want the examiner to meet our subject before the test.
So far, so good. But it's the final factor that's the most critical of all.
There needs to be a big lie. There needs to be a reward versus punishment aspect to it. If you wanted an accurate test of this, you would need to commit a crime.
It slowly dawns on the guys. If they want to test this myth properly, they'll have to actually commit a crime. And that's because a lie detector works by measuring the physiological changes to the human body associated with stress, including heart rate, blood pressure, and sweat. Committing a crime with consequences stressful enough to sweat over is the only way to really put the polygraph through its paces. Back at the shop, the team begin by building the interrogation chamber. But remember, if you can't do the time...
I don't know what to do. Got a bunch they're coming in a little bit.
So we are undergoing a very vigorous sort of wobble up there near
YouTube.
the 20-mile level. That, if it does make it down to the jet stream level, we will see Arctic outbreaks across parts of the northern hemisphere. Now, we don't know exactly.
That's in 2 weeks.
May it be in the United States? May it be in Europe? Or both? We don't know.
Who knows?
But this goes out a week, and this shows you kind of a mild.
Yeah, that's going to be for us.
Not really mild. It's cold.
YouTube.
But I'm telling you what, if, let's say, 2-3 weeks out,
YouTube.
this really, this impact really begins to manifest itself, Chris.
YouTube.
Some of those numbers that we're showing in our long distance forecast are going to be way colder than that. We can easily see places in Chicago going well below 0, Chris, if this pans out.
It's us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Postel. Stay tuned.
YouTube.
For the first time ever, America's game is coming to primetime for a star-studded event that will leave you spinning.
This could get ugly out here.
Celebrity Wheel of Fortune premieres tonight on ABC.
We love Consumer Cellular because everything works so well.
We've saved hundreds and the coverage is really great.
It's the best of both worlds.
For
I wanna
those
see
of us
that.
who weren't born yesterday, there's Consumer Cellular, where you can get talk, text, and data for only $20 a month with no contract and flexible plans you can change anytime.
Consumer Cellular offers me flexibility, which suits my life perfectly.
I get premium service with Consumer Cellular. Switching is so easy. It's reliable, it's easy to use, and the customer service is phenomenal.
Our US-based team is
Please tell me the KO box is
award for
not on the front again. It is.
times in a row, and we use the same network as the bigger, more expensive providers.
I wasn't born yesterday. I know what that
Oh,
is.
no.
And Consumer Cellular gives me value. I love it.
Consumer Cellular has been an approved AARP provider for over 12 years, so members can.
Okay, box is on the fritz again. Box. I want to do some quick. I have to do a reset. The cable box again, darn it. The cable box is going fritzy again. Okay, there we go. I have to wait a little bit. Cable went out earlier today. There was a cable guy on the road, so who knows. What I've set. There we go.
6107.
There you
That's
go.
800-905-6107.
See your
WZZM.
Welcome back to Linear.
and know you're not alone. Because this is not just a mirror, it's an unstoppable community.
WZZM.
One more.
It's a race across time zones.
Let's go.
A gift for the whole family. So join in now and see your best self in the mirror.
1 in 2 kids is underhydrated. If your child doesn't see themselves at times, they may not be hydrated enough.
WZZM.
Plant-powered Creative Roots gives kids the hydration they need with the fruit flavors they love and 1 gram of sugar. Find Creative Roots in the kids' juice aisle.
Find the cloud in this picture. Look closely. I'll give you a second. Did you find it here? Excellent job. That water holds future clouds. Sun's working on it as we speak. Get into the out there. The Weather Channel.
And the flakes are flying in Bozeman, Montana. It's freezing. Check out this scene here. If you're into the snow, this will do it for you, I think. Winter weather advisory in effect for you tonight. What else does it, for me at least, is after a snow, we see
red.
blue skies and sunshine. We're going to be dealing with clearing skies in Bozeman with some sunshine.
This is working still.
To start the weekend. So snow coming in showers, and depending on how fast this area of low pressure that we're seeing generate this snow across parts of Montana, depending on how fast it moves, will depend on how much will result in how much we get here. So we're seeing around Billings, up to Great Falls, and around Bozeman, the snow coming down at the moment. So it doesn't look like a whole lot, but if this moves
WZZM.
slowly, we'll see it. Also, here's the next one that's going to bring some more snow
15.
to parts of the South. Right now, we're seeing snow in Arkansas, Missouri, even in the plains, parts of Kansas and Nebraska.
Showing
Also,
markings
some
at
of
work.
the mountains now and some of the areas in Kentucky with snowfall. Here's the overall area of low pressure. And as it works its way offshore, it will continue to bring rain southern locations. This is southern locations in relationship to the area of low pressure, because the northern half of the low, which is still in the south, will mean some snow. In fact, you're seeing hints of that right here. I wouldn't be totally surprised if, like say, Lookout Mountain, some of the mountains around Chattanooga see some snowflakes coming down. The radar is indicating that we're seeing some of that. And then here in Arkansas, closer look at this band. It's an interesting band, I think, to watch around Paducah, just to the north, as we see the snowflakes flying in air at the surface that is just above the freezing mark. And through the afternoon, we're going to continue to watch both this one right here and this one right here. But Jackie, in the near term, what's going to happen over here? Oh,
WZZM.
Interesting.
Yeah, a little more interesting, I think, than it is right now. And even that piques my interest a little bit, doesn't it? So snow is on the way. It's coming to the Tar Heel State. Places like Asheville are under a winter storm warning later on tonight. The low is right at the freezing point. Greensboro also getting a blast of wintry weather. You're under a winter storm watch. You can expect a mix of rain and snow tomorrow. Greensboro is going to be on the edge. How much thicket are you going to get? I don't know. Just a couple of miles, I think, off towards your west. And it's going to be a different story than what you're going to get in the city. So this is kind of an interesting event. It's not just in the mountains. We may see some into the more low-lying areas, but of course the heaviest amounts are going to be into the higher elevations. And that's why we've got the purple area over here into the mountains of western North Carolina, where 5 to 8 inches can be expected. But even down towards Hickory, 3 to 5 inches can be expected. Greensboro could pick up a few. It's a possibility. Charlotte, perhaps a dusting if we're lucky. We've got winter storm warnings that go all the way down into north Georgia. Of course, that's going to be elevation dependent as well. So Chris talked about what's happening now across parts of Arkansas. What's coming next is what's going to be happening across eastern Tennessee and into the Carolinas and into the southern Appalachians. I've been checking observations all through this region here in eastern Tennessee and into northern parts of Georgia and Alabama. Not seeing any snow reports as of this time. Temperature still just a little bit too warm for that. But give it a minute because that's going to change as this moisture spreads in and we head into the nighttime hours for tonight. That snow is going to take over and certainly going to accumulate. Really watching that I-40 corridor, especially. Chris.
All right, so let's talk about this southern snow. And another shot of snow is heading and going to be hitting the south. And the wintry weather could stretch from New Mexico
I'm my phone
to
because this thing doesn't work.
including Texas.
Things I don't want to do is use my phone. Come on, the clicker doesn't work.
Okay, let's prove it. Just take the picture. Man, hopeless. Yeah. Okay, 3.
YouTube.
Of ingredients, right? So
Four.
we're not always seeing the
Four.
moisture and the cold coming together at the same time across some of these areas. So,
Work.
it just makes that
Four.
much more difficult. It's not always going to be a slam dunk in the forecast here. Austin to Dallas, you're in the rain by 3 o'clock.
WOTV.
Get interesting. This is where we could end up
WOTV.
seeing a snow event take place. So stay tuned. Dallas to Shreveport, Bossier City, and beyond.
Tasha, did you know Geico could save you hundreds on car insurance and a whole lot more? So what are you waiting for? Hip Hop Group Tag Team to help you plan dessert.
Get out, watch some on YouTube then. I don't know Top Gear. I don't know. Crazy Russian hacker.
Hey guys, Chris Fix here. Today we're working on a new project. I don't know if you can tell where you are. Hopefully you can't, because if you can, that's not good. You're in the back of a cop car. This is actually a 2005 Ford Crown Victoria P71. Just picked it up for my buddy who is a police officer, and we're converting it from a normal Crown Victoria to a police car. We picked this up for a great price, but it does need some work. And the few things that we're going to do in this video today are going to increase the value significantly, let alone make the car look a lot better. So let's take a look at this Crown Vic. So we have a 2005 Ford Crown Victoria. This is a P71, which means it's upgraded for the police. It has an upgraded suspension, heavy-duty alternator, bigger radiator, oil and transmission coolers. The ECU is tuned differently to allow for tighter shift points. There's an upgraded torque converter. It has upgraded brakes, upgraded rear differential gears. This is a 327-to-1 gear ratio. It gives you quicker off-the-line acceleration. We have a special pursuit-rated aluminum drive shaft to handle high-speed driving. There's a stainless steel dual exhaust without resonators, which sounds awesome. And then there's a fire suppression system in this 2005 P71. So those are most of the upgrades included in the police package. Let's go check out the interior. On the interior of the car, we have front cloth bucket seats with a brake in the middle, even though the shifter is found on the steering column. This allows for adding a center console, which the police use for a radio, computer, and other police gear. Above the center console area is a classic map light police use to do paperwork in the vehicle. On the dashboard, we can see the speedometer goes to 140 miles per hour, and the speedometer is calibrated and certified. The rear has vinyl seats, which makes it easier to clean, and the rear doors only open from the outside, so if you're a criminal, you can't get out. Two neat features to note that this car has is the front driver's seat is a powered seat, which is a rare option. And there's also a tow hitch on this car, which is a useful option. Now this P71 was used as a detective's car, which is good because you don't want a patrol car. Even though this one has 100,000 miles, if you have a patrol car, that doesn't tell the true story because patrol cars are used at idle a lot. So the mileage might be 100,000 miles, but the hours on the engine is potentially a lot higher. As you can see with this car, we're missing the front grille and the headlights are filled with water and very hazy. In addition, the spotlight does not work. Now that you know what a P71 is, let's start Project Police Interceptor. In the first episode of Project Police Interceptor, we're going to put in new headlights and a grille, and fix the spotlight. So let's get started. We're trying to do this project on a budget, so these headlights are from PartsMax. They specialize in aftermarket parts and have great deals on headlights. Plus, they were able to ship these to me quickly. And then the grille we found in pretty much brand new condition at a local scrapyard that junks New York City taxis. They wanted $30 and we talked them down to 10. If I wasn't able to find a good condition grill at the scrapyard, I was going to get the grill from PartsMax too, but we lucked out and found a good one. So enough talking about the new parts, let's get down to business. I'm going to go show you how easy it is to transform the look of the car and significantly increase the value of the car. So to get access behind the grill, we need to take off the shroud right here, and this literally just comes right out just like that. They make it nice and easy for you, and then we have access to the headlights as well as the grill mounting points. Let's go do the headlights first. So to remove the headlight, we have two wiring harnesses back here that we need to remove. Let's take your flathead screwdriver. And this brown one just has a little button right here that you press down and you pull this out. Now there's these two tabs right here. You just pull the tab straight up and that'll come out. Do the same thing for this one. Might help if you use a pliers. And then this headlight will come right out. Just like that. You can see the previous owner had moisture issues, so they used a bunch of silicone at the top. So we're going from this to that. The new headlights come with the high and low beam bulb, but we need to put in the yellow running light bulb. Just gotta remove that seal. So we're gonna take out this bulb right here in these headlights, just turn it and wiggle it out. We'll grab our new headlight.
I'm gonna move a little bit, and that's over here.
And then make sure you turn it. This one actually takes a decent amount of force. Creates a nice seal so you don't get water in here. Now we can take our headlamp.
Do I really want to leave the camera on or not? Who cares? It's Thursday live, so it doesn't really matter.
First, put it through like that, and then slide this down. Just like
Phone's
so.
away. I think my phone is a little bit like my phone real quick.
In there, but it locks right
I know
in
I'm
place.
watching.
Now
Respect.
we're going to do the other ones.
Since the clicker's not
Same
working, I'm
idea.
gonna come on later. I don't get mad at me, but yeah.
Okay.
Got some breadsticks. Let's see what side has the. Okay, this side has the sauce. Okay.
Goes in like that. That one puts in
Yummy.
like that. We'll turn our headlights on. Here's the old one.
If the money, I'd buy you some
And
Little
here's the new one.
If Little Caesars delivered, I'd have Little Caesars.
Beautiful. Now we'll do the other side real quick. So we got our old headlight. Put in our new headlight. And look at that. So much nicer already. Now let's get this grill on. So the grill is pretty simple. On the bottom, it clips in. On the top, it bolts in. Here's the back of the grill. You can see here's the bolts. And here's the bottom. Here's the clips. So first thing we're going to do, line it up. Just like this. Good. Now looking from the back of the grill, if we look, you can see here, there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolt studs. Then we have these nuts. We're going to go right on like that. That's 1. That's 2. 3. And 4. These bolts are 11 millimeter. Just gonna go tighten them down. Good. All we have to do is get our little guard here. It slips right in. And we are done. Check out the transformation. This is before.
What's inside? Okay.
This is after. Let's see it one more time. Old beat up Crown Vic, cop car. Okay, with the transformation.
I said a cop car.
Really?
No.
I
like the build up.
This broken spotlight.
I mean, if I had the money, I'd get myself a van. A panel van or a.
We're not getting the 12 volts here.
Mhm.
To find out, let's take it apart. The lens is held on by 3 Allen head screws. And it pops off just like that. So already I noticed something wrong. The red wire is supposed to be attached to a terminal in here, but all I see attached is the ground. So I'm going to take the ground off and we'll get a better look. So here's our ground, and our red wire is supposed to attach right in here. You can see here's a plastic coating which prevents the black and red from touching. So let's reattach the...
Auto Parts.
So let's reattach the red wire and make sure the light works. Now we'll connect our ground, and let's try this light out. So there we go. The whole reason the light wasn't working was because that disconnected red wire. So I just want to make sure you guys understand how this light bulb works and how this whole wiring setup works. It's really easy. Here's the back of our light bulb. We have a red wire. So this is our power wire, which goes into here. And that's what turns this bulb on. So our power wire supplies power to the bulb, and after power goes through the bulb, it exits the bulb through the ground wire, which is this right here. So you can see right here, here's our ground wire, and it grounds right to this bolt right here, which just grounds to the frame of the vehicle. Now, interestingly, there's a little tab right in there. I don't know if you can see it too well, but that tab right there, that's your power. So in between the ground is your power. That little
Marcus.
right there.
Marcus.
And this power wire
Marcus.
the light bulb needs to go around that.
Hi, Mark. What's up?
And it wasn't there.
Yeah?
Which is why we weren't getting power.
Okay.
So this
Bye.
is really easy. We're just gonna get our power.
Hello?
Our light,
Hello. Bye.
push that on,
Hi, guys.
and then just crimp it down so it doesn't go anywhere.
Hi,
So
guys.
with that red wire attached, we'll attach our ground. Sneak this back in here. Attach the trim. Screw the 3 screws into the trim to hold the light into place. Now let's see. Beautiful. Move it around, make sure it doesn't fade in or out when it gets vibrated a lot. Nope. Good. Fix the light. So we did a lot and made Project Police Interceptor significantly nicer than it was. The headlights from Parts Max and the grill from the junkyard really completed the car. And what's a cop car without a working spotlight? Project Police Interceptor is really coming along. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1 of Project Police Interceptor. If you like this, there'll be a few more episodes in the series where I wire up a siren, install undercover red and blue police lights, as well as some other surprises. And this gets very loud. Hey guys, Chris Fritz here, and this is episode 2 of Project Police Interceptor.
5 years ago.
In this episode, we're going to go wire in the mic, and we'll put a siren in so we could make some noise. For those of you who haven't seen episode 1, I'll leave the link to that video in the description below. Go check that out. It'll give you an idea of what this project's all about, and it'll also show you what fixes we did to start with. Now, I just want to be clear. This car is for a police officer. He is legally allowed to have a siren and lights installed in his car. This is his off-duty vehicle, which he'll be using for transport to and from work. And a lot of times when he's going to and from work, he encounters an accident or he assists other officers. And he's had some pretty close calls with other vehicles almost hitting him. And that's why in this episode, we're going to be installing a siren so his car will stand out and people will know to slow down, making his job a lot safer. Remember, never impersonate a police officer. And before installing anything like this on your vehicle, check your local laws. But all of that should be self-explanatory. So let's begin. So with our setup here, we have a mic, we have a siren that we're going to install in the front of the vehicle, and then we have our box, which is going inside the vehicle. And this box allows you to control the siren. You can add lights to it, which we'll do later on. We can raise the volume. I'm keeping it low right now so we don't hurt our ears. We have different modes, and then we have all the spaghetti which we need to wire up. So the first step is, where are we going to put this control box? The officer who owns the vehicle wants to place it somewhere in the middle here. Now normally we would have a center console or something in here that this would mount to. But in this case, we don't have a center console yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to temporarily mount it right here. It's within reach of all the dials and everything. We can get to the mic really easy. The wiring harness will go out behind here. And that brings me to an important point. Whenever you're wiring something, doesn't matter if it's a radio, doesn't matter if it's lights, whatever. You always want to have a plan. You can't just go at it and hope for the best. When you're wiring, there's certain gauges of wire that you'll need based on how long the wires have to be.
And the voltage
you're going to draw. It sounds complex, but it's really simple. Check this out. So let's say we're using 10 gauge wire and our siren's going to draw 10 amps. That means we need 14 gauge wire. So that's why it's important to have a strategy when you're doing all this wiring. In this case, we're wiring up the siren. So it's important to know where we're putting this control box. So when we wire everything, we know the distance, and then that'll give us an idea of what gauge wiring we need to use. So this siren's going to have a 7.5 amp draw and a 10 amp fuse. So we're going to say 10 amp maximum draw because anything larger than that, the fuse is going to blow. That means when we look at this chart, we're going to be working in the 10 amp column here. Now let's figure out how long our wires are going to be. The longest wires we're going to be running are going to be going all the way to the battery over there. So in order to make it to the battery, we're going to run from here along the side all the way there. That's about 10 to 15 feet. So at 10 amps and 10 feet, we have to use 14 gauge wiring. Now that we know the length and gauge wire we're going to be running, let's take a look at the wiring harness. So we have our spaghetti wiring harness here with all the different color wires, and that means absolutely nothing without our wiring diagram. The wiring harness connects to the back of our control box via this connector. Very simple.
Okay. Ooh, on TV right now. On TVs.
That we need to know where it wires to. And then we have our speaker, which is pretty simple. It's 2 wires. And then we need to mount this somewhere. And just to be clear, as usual, I drew out a diagram. You can see here's our radio box, which is that. And our black ground goes to the chassis ground. So anywhere there is a clean, bare metal spot on the chassis, we can connect right to that. Our red wire goes to the battery for power. Our yellow wires aren't getting used right now, but they're for the lights. And then our green wires go right to the speaker or the siren, whatever you want to call it. So that's our setup. So now that we got our spaghetti figured out, let's go see where we're going to mount our siren. Our siren is really heavy, so it has to be in a sturdy place. The other thing is the siren is directional, so the sound waves come out this way. So we want to mount this somewhere facing forward. We also want to mount it somewhere where the sound waves could penetrate through. So somewhere in the grill would be perfect. So to get behind the grill, you already saw in the previous episode, just pull that right out. And right behind the grill are a bunch of sturdy mounting points. So let's fit this up. And it looks like the perfect spot right here. So I took the bracket off the siren speaker so it's easier to work with. I'm going to place this where I want to mount it, and then I'm going to mark the holes with a marker so we know where to drill. Good. I marked all the slots from the mount just in case we want to use all 3, but we're only going to use the outside 2. So let's get drilling. Now we'll test fit the bracket to make sure it fits correctly.
Hello? Hello?
This fits great, so let's mount up the siren. So we want to make sure our speaker is facing forward and out of the vehicle.
Need some socks and shoes on later.
Good, now this is nice and secure. You can see this does not move at all. I'm really pulling hard on this, and it's nice and sturdy. And this is the view from the front. I think we picked the perfect place to mount it. Now let's go run the wires. From inside the car, we need to take this wiring harness and run the wires from our control box through the firewall to get to the engine bay. So all these wires need to find a spot through the firewall. So let's go look at the driver's side footwell. And what we're trying to do is find any passages through the engine bay, like this shifter cable right there, or right there with this wiring harness, or with the steering column, so we can slip our wires through. And to be honest, when I'm looking under here, I don't see anything, so we might have to drill our own hole. So I'm gonna look right underneath that wiring and see what's on the engine side of the firewall. Okay, so we're coming in from the driver's side here, and we want to look for that wiring harness. There it is. So that's the wiring harness that we just saw from the interior. And we want to make sure there's nothing underneath it so we can drill a hole. So right under the wiring harness, there's just that black sheet of insulation. So we could drill right through the firewall, and that's where we'll run our wires. So it's looking real good. We could drill right there. Nice small hole, put a grommet, make it nice and neat. It's away from the wiring harness, and that sounds like a plan. So now we need to be able to slip all these wires through a grommet. And a grommet is just a piece of rubber. And what this does is it protects the wires and closes off that hole so that there's no chafing. So you can see these wires will actually fit nice and snugly in this grommet. And if we want to add 2 more wires, there's just enough space. So if we want to add those light wires, we can always do that later on. So what we need to do is we need to drill a hole that is the inside diameter of this grommet. And then we'll snap that grommet in, and then we could run wires through the firewall without a problem. And convenient enough, the same drill that we just used to drill those holes to mount the siren fits this perfectly. It's a little bit bigger than the inside diameter, which is what we want, just slightly larger, and that'll fit perfect. But first we're going to be using a smaller bit to drill a pilot hole into the firewall. We're going to go right below that wiring harness, right here. Drill our pilot hole, and we'll go in. Perfect. So now the wires will pass through here without a grommet. The problem is, you can see already the edge, even though it looks pretty smooth, a little bit of vibration and movement over time like that will chafe the wires. So what you do is you get this rubber grommet, which goes right in the hole like this. There we go. Now, when the wires go in here and it moves in and out, there's no chafing because it's rubber, so it's really soft. So now we have our grommet installed. You can see the light from the outside. Now we can run the wires through there. Now we're going to mount the radio so we can run the wires through the firewall. I was going to put it right here and just Velcro it, but then you see all these wires. What I think we're going to do instead, that fits in there nicely. And we'll have this clip somewhere over here. And then these wires will be tucked away out of sight. This is only temporary, and I'm thinking we're going to build a little center console mount right here so we can mount it to that. But for now, we'll mount it right here. Now here's a side view, and what we can do is we can run the wires back through here. Just like so. So now you're not even going to be able to see the wires. The other thing is, there's a nice bare piece of metal right here, and our grounds could connect right to that bare piece of metal. So let's start out with this black ground wire. We'll remove the carpet piece here, and we're going to ground it right to one of these bolts. So here's the eyelet, and this already came pre-stripped. So I'm actually going to bend it over, just like that. Slide that in there. Grab the crimpers, crimp it good, and give it a nice tug to ensure it's crimped tight. Beautiful. Now we have the whole system grounded. Now I didn't trim the black wire because if we're going to move this forward a little bit, we might need some more room. So I'm just gonna tuck this in here, out of the way. Beautiful, can't even see it's there. We'll put our trim piece back. And you can't even tell there are wires there. Since we aren't using the yellow wires right now, I'm gonna tape them up since they came pre-stripped. This will prevent any shorts. And now we can tuck those wires out of sight as well. Now let's get the red wire and the two green wires through the grommet. Remember, the green wires go to the siren or the speaker, whatever you want to call it. And the red wire goes to the battery. Now let's take the wires and route it to the grommet. Slide it through the grommet and pull it through to the engine bay.
Oh, this is how that phone went still. This is how still had
Now if we look how we're wiring this and where we're running it, you want to keep it away from all moving parts. This is going to get zip tied up against this vacuum line up here, so it's not just dangling there. But you can see, it goes up and over everything. So it's not in the way of any of the brake or even the gas. It's out of the way of all moving parts. It's not near this, which will turn. This is your steering shaft. And it goes up and over everything, and then down through there. I'm also going to zip tie it right here up against this wiring harness so this doesn't move either. Just to keep everything steady. This needs to be reliable, needs to work every time, and it needs to be safe. Now that's the end of the wiring harness that they supply you. So you're going to have to add your own wires so that you can run it from here all the way to there, and then also all the way to the battery on that side. To run it there, we're going to be using this tubing so that none of the wires fray. So the wires are all going to go into this tubing, which will protect it. Since it's going to be around 10 feet of wiring, I'm going to use this red wire for this red wire and this black wire for the speaker wires. And these are 14 gauge, and that'll prevent any significant voltage drop. So it'll keep the wires cool, it'll allow the full 12 to 14 volts to run through it, and just keep everything running in tip-top shape. So now I'm going to just go run the black wires to our siren. Now we have our two black wires of equal length. I'll strip the ends. Now we have all of our ends stripped, so we can connect the two green to the two black wires and run them to the speaker. You get both stripped ends of the wire, push them together, and you get your cripper and crimp them down. Then you give the wires a tug and test it out. Do the same exact thing for the other wire, and then we'll use the heat gun to shrink the rubber around the tip and make it watertight.
Yeah, I should do some more shit.
Now that looks perfect. So our two black wires are connected. Let's get our red wire connected.
I should wait a little bit
So
before
I'm
I
just
even...
running the wire roughly in the area that I'm going to lay it down in, so I know where I can cut it. We can cut this right here. We have our two red wires here. Crimp these together as well. Test it. Good. Now all three wires are crimped together nice and strong, and they're heat shrink, so they're waterproof. Now we're going to get this plastic hollow tubing, and we're going to run the wires through the tubing, and it'll just keep these wires nice and protected. So you can see there's a split right down the middle of this. All you do is feed the wires into the tube, like that. There's just this little bit of red wire sticking out now, so we'll tuck that in there. So now we're going to route this where we want it. We're going to go through the hole that's right down here. So now we have our two wires coming from the siren and our two black wires coming from the box. And we're going to get these together. It doesn't matter polarity. Just one on one, one on the other. That's one. That's two. Now we'll heat shrink them. All right, that's all connected up. Sneak that in here. I'll tape up these wires with black tape just to make sure they're nice and neat. Let's finish running this underneath here. Now let's run the red wire through the hole in the frame to get to the battery. So I have this eyelet, but the plastic around it isn't heat shrink. So I'm going to take the plastic off, and I have a piece of heat shrink to fit right over it. Heat shrink prevents corrosion, holds the wire in place, and really seals in that connection from the elements, so I prefer using it. I'm going to slide the heat shrink on the wire and then attach the eyelet to the end. Crimp it down, slide the heat shrink over like that, and use a heat gun to shrink it. So we're about to connect the power wire, so make sure the siren box is shut off completely. We'll tighten this down. Close that up. And now let's go try it out. Okay, everything's all wired in place properly. Let's go turn her on. We got power. Beautiful. Okay, now that we know it works, I'm going to just shut it off and we're going to finish tightening up all the wiring. I'm going to use zip ties to secure the wiring harness so it doesn't move around. So we have our wires coming up. It's secured right here. It comes across. It's kind of tucked down into there, all secured. It goes through there, comes up. And here's where I'm going to want to secure it, right up here. Then it follows the frame along the front. It goes through the frame and meets the battery. So we are almost done. We'll put the shroud back on. Now we have one more thing we need to do. We need to mount the microphone somewhere in the car. Comes with this mounting plate. I kind of like right there. So then it'll sit just like this. So we're going to put it like right here. These will screw in. First I need to drill a hole. Actually, I wonder if I could put it right here. So right here we have these vents. And I'm thinking if I could put this right here and just use the existing vent holes, so then I don't have to drill anything, and it could go back to stock without any holes. Good. And that's dirty. That's not coming off right there. I like that. So now we can easily grab that from the driver's seat, put it back. And the best part is there's no holes, so I didn't have to drill holes in here. So if we wanted to put this somewhere else, we could easily just take that off. Beautiful. Now we're officially done. Let's go try the siren out. So that's how you turn it on. You can adjust the volume right here. We'll put it at about half volume. And then you have different settings here. And then later on, we could use these two switches for our lights. The fuse is a 10 amp fuse and it's built into this, so we don't have to worry about adding a fuse. And then anytime you want, you just press the mic and you can speak into the mic. And to shut it off, just close that like that, and you're good to go. So there we go. Episode 2, Project Police Interceptor. Installing a siren so that the police officer can be heard. There's less of a chance of him getting struck by a vehicle. It'll make it known that he's on scene. And I think that's pretty cool. It worked out great. And stay tuned for episode 3. Hopefully you like how Project Police Interceptor is coming along.
Yep.
Like what's happening so far? Give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button to get new updates on different projects, as well as this project. There are 3 videos down below you can click on, or you can find the links to those videos in the description. And also, if you have any ideas, let me know. Stuff that people have never done or don't commonly do is what's going to make Project Police Interceptor stand out. Hey guys, Chris Fix here. Can we get a thumbs up because Project Police Interceptor is back? Finally, I was able to get the officer to let me finish the Crown Vic so we can finish episode 3 and episode 4. First off, let me start by saying I don't make many of these update videos. I needed to update you guys on episode 3 and 4 for Project Police Interceptor. But for now on, I want you guys right now to go check out my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter.
I don't have none of those.
I mostly use Instagram and Facebook. But on those social media pages, that's what I use to update everybody on what's going on. Just like, I don't know if you noticed, but last Thursday was the first Thursday I ever missed making a video. And, well, it's because I was at SEMA. And if you were on my Instagram or if you're on my Facebook, you would know that.
SEMA.
So I just want to get that out there. Check out my Instagram,
SEMA's
Facebook,
cool.
Twitter. Those
But I've never
links
gone to
will be in
SEMA.
the description. Anyhow, getting this car back is a big deal. Finally got it back. The officer
In a little bit
uses
longer,
it
I'm
all the
gonna-
time to go back and forth to work. He has a long drive. I know I told you guys multiple times what the deal is. and actually this car has already saved lives, so I am way proud to work on it. I think I'm gonna have to do a reenactment of what happens. Right now, I am gonna put some brakes in it. It needs brakes, and then obviously episode 3, we're gonna wire up all the lights and everything. I gotta make a center console for the siren, and I don't want to spoil too much on episode 3. And you saw the light bar in the front of the vehicle. This is gonna be way cool. So we know episode 3 is gonna be wiring lights. I have some surprises in that episode. There's some really cool stuff. But what's episode 4 gonna be? Well, that's gonna be bulletproofing these doors. So contrary to popular belief, guess what? Doors in cars are not bulletproof. When a cop hides behind one of these doors in the movies, 99% of these doors are not bulletproof. If they are, they have a little badge that goes right on the door and it says it's armored. I mean, it's expensive to armor doors, which is why we're going to be doing it, because how cool is that? Make a bulletproof door? Bulletproofing this door is going to be expensive. We're going to shoot a real door and prove it's bulletproof. That episode 4 is going to be insane. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited to do that. I need to try to find bulletproofing that is cheap, and it's going to go inside the door panel, so I'm going to take the door panel off. So if you guys have any ideas, any connections, anything like that, let me know. I'm totally down to listen to what you guys have to say. Comment in the comment section. That's episode 4, so we got some cool stuff coming up with that. Another thing I want to mention, my officer friends gave me something else that I need to do, and that is make a video on how to remove sap. Actually, I got sap all over me. He got sap all over his car because at the station, he parks this underneath a pine tree. He knows better now, and there's just sap everywhere. I know you guys probably park under trees once in your life, and you got sap on your car. So I'm going to show you how to remove sap. That's another video coming up. And finally, I just want to mention my website is up, which is awesome. It's just a simple place to find videos. It's in the beginning stages. My website has many features, such as a store where you can get your own Chris Fix bumper sticker and show your support for my channel for all you fans out there. They come in white or black, and you can put them anywhere, on your car, on your laptop, on your toolbox, wherever you want. And make sure you send me a picture if you get one. Plus, on the website, there's a section that you can submit your own video requests, and it goes right to a list. You can always do that on YouTube by commenting, but this is also another method where you can submit it. It goes right to a list, and that list gets tallied so I can see what requests are the most common. Any proceeds from my website go directly back into making videos. I want to do a bunch of cool videos such as dyno testing products to see if they make more power, plus do more cool and unique builds such as Project Police Interceptor. And don't forget, leave your opinions about the website in the comment section. I want to hear what you think. That way I can make a better website based off of what you guys want. And this is just a really quick video to give you an update because that's important to me, to let you guys know what's going on. Episode 3 is coming out soon. Next 30 days it will be out. I promise. And then hopefully episode 4 will be soon after. If you have any ideas for Project Police Interceptor, comment below. Give this video a thumbs up. I want to show this officer how great it is that I finally got this car back. This is big. I know you guys have been dying for episode 3. Episode 4 is going to be awesome. And I'm hoping that I can squeeze in a really cool episode 5. I have a great idea. I don't want to spoil it. This is a Chris Fix Project Police Interceptor update, saying stay tuned for some cool stuff real soon. Hey guys, Chris Fix here. Today I'm going to show you how to paint your wheels. In this video, I'm going to be painting these steel wheels to make them look amazing and to transform the look of this car. Because personally, I don't like the look of hubcaps, especially these hubcaps. And under those hubcaps, these steelies are all rusty and look horrible. So we're going to go from these ugly rusted wheels to this, which looks amazing and really transforms the look of the car. The process I'm about to show you will work for any wheel you want to paint, whether aluminum alloy, chrome, or steel. And I'm going to be using common tools so you can do this at home. If you have aluminum wheels that are polished and shiny, I have a video on how to fix scratches and curb rash on those, and then polish them up and clear coat them. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But if you want to paint your wheels, then this video is for you. So let's begin. Now there are 5 simple steps to spray paint your wheels. The first step is to clean the rim with soapy water to remove any grease, brake dust, or road grime. The second step is to smooth down any rust, scratches, or curb rash with a metal wire brush, sandpaper, or flat wheel. Step 3 is to wipe down the rim with alcohol to clean the surface for paint. Step 4 is to paint the wheel with primer. And step 5 is to paint the wheel with any color you want. This will take you about 2 hours total to do all 4 wheels. So let's get started.
I need a van and I need paper wheels on it.
And clean them with soapy water. You want to remove any brake dust and grease that might be on the wheels. It doesn't have to be perfect because the next step, we're going to sand down the wheel, which will remove most of the brake dust anyway. So just make sure you get all the grease off. Now with the wheel clean, the next step varies based on the condition of your wheel. Now what we want to do is we want to make this wheel as smooth as possible. Any little rough spots, scratches, curb rash, or any other damage will show up through the paint, so you have to smooth those down. So if you have any deep scratches that gouge into the metal, get one of these 120 grit flat discs and smooth it out, just like I showed you in the aluminum wheel repair video. And you can do the same thing with 400 grit sandpaper, it just takes a little bit longer. Since these wheels are steel wheels and we're dealing with all this rust, not really scratches or gouges or curb rash, I'm going to use a metal wire brush on my angle grinder. Now this is a fine metal wire brush compared to a thicker metal wire brush. And we only need fine because this rust isn't bad at all. And the good thing is both of these could be bought for less than $20. Now, if you don't have a Dremel or an angle grinder, you could use old-fashioned sandpaper to sand down the wheel. Just like in the aluminum wheel repair video, you go from 400 to 600 to 800 to 1,000 grit to smooth down this whole surface. You'll get the same results with the sandpaper as you will with anything else. It just takes a lot longer, which is why I'll be using it. And remember, if your wheels are steel just like this, which you can tell because the magnet sticks to them, it takes a lot more pressure and a lot more time to sand scratches smooth in steel because steel is harder compared to aluminum. Aluminum will sand a lot faster. Now let's get started removing this rust. Now at this point, we want to use eye, lung, and hearing protection. We don't want this dust to get in our lungs or our eyes. And the little metal pieces on the wire brush tend to shoot out if it hits a rough patch, so you don't want that in your eye. Now we're going to start by sanding the whole wheel down. The goal here is to get the surface completely smooth and rust-free. Focus on removing that surface rust. Make sure you get into all the different spots, like the center of the wheel here.
Oh yeah, I could do it for you
Pay
too.
attention to the tire stem so you don't damage it. And make sure you don't forget about the edge of the rim. But be careful with the tire because you want to do your best to not hit the tire with the
I
wire.
look on YouTube and see what they got.
Finally,
They don't even do it, they'll hold it home.
Now you might want to take the wheel weight off when you paint the rims. That's up to you. I'm not going to because you're going to have to balance the wheels afterwards. These are brand new tires and I'm not getting them balanced again. So I'm keeping the weight on. I can always touch up the paint if the wheel weight ever has to get removed. Make sure you get in every crack and crevice. You want to make sure you remove all the rust and any imperfections because that'll show right through the paint. You can see this spot looks clean and free of rust, but upon closer inspection, it still has some roughness to it. This roughness will show right through the paint, just like this. So make sure you get it completely smooth. Now look at that difference. Make sure you do that for the entire wheel. Even if your wheel's in great shape with no rust or scratches, sand the whole surface down with 600 grit so the paint has something to grab onto. This will make the paint last a lot longer and resist chipping and peeling. Now I told you to wear eye protection, and check this out. This is why. These little pieces of metal from the wire wheel come flying off, and imagine if this went and hit your eye. So be smart.
I'm building my
and
stuff,
safe,
building
because that's
stuff.
very important.
I got those cheap ones. The cheap ones are just temporary use.
With no rust or deep scratches. The little bit of black left over is the original powder coating, and it's not coming off that easily, so you can spray right over it without any problems. Now, on to step 3. The first thing I like to do is I like to hit the wheel with some compressed air, or if you don't have an air compressor, a leaf blower would work well. And just blow all that dust that you created from sanding off the wheel. If you don't have some type of pressurized air, then just wipe the wheel off with a towel. Now for step 3, we're using rubbing alcohol. Pour the alcohol onto a paper towel, preferably a paper towel that's low lit, and just make sure you rub down the whole wheel to get it clean. Every surface should be touched by the alcohol and paper towel. We use alcohol because alcohol is a good solvent, plus it's very volatile, so it evaporates and dries quickly. You want to clean the wheel until you can wipe the wheel with a new paper towel, and it's completely clean, like this. Once your towel's clean, you're ready for step 4, spraying primer. For step 4, find a spot away from anything you wouldn't want to get overspray on, such as your car. Now the hardest part about painting is not getting any paint on your tire. So I have 2 tricks that we're going to use to help with that. The first trick is tire shine gel. Get a bunch of tire shine gel on the applicator and spread it on the outside of the
Hey, it's not
tire.
anything.
Being
You
careful
won't see
not
if you
to
like
touch
it or not,
the
you
rim
know, but you
at
don't.
all. If you get anything on the wheel
So there you go.
or
Please
even on
defer
the
it for
outside
this
of the
person. I
wheel,
definitely
make sure you clean it off with alcohol right away because the paint won't stick.
Please defer
And that's the whole purpose of using tire gel.
Yes,
If you get any overspray, you're just going to wipe it off because the overspray is going to stick to the gel, and the gel provides a protective coating. And to make sure you don't get the tire shine on the rim here, don't go so close, leave a little gap. That's where trick number 2 comes in handy, using index cards. And all you're going to do is stick the note cards between the rim and the tire all the way around. So as we spray, we're going to have to go all the way across the wheel so the index cards will protect the tire from overspray. And if you happen to get some overspray on the tire shine will make it real easy to remove that overspray and the paint won't stick to the tire. One more thing, to protect the valve stem, I like to use the tip of a finger from an old glove and just cut it off. Then it slides right over the valve stem, just like that. Alright, we are ready to spray primer. We use primer first because it bonds well to the metal and fills in small surface blemishes like scratches. It also gives the colored paint a really good surface to bond to. Now, a helpful trick I learned for spray paint, if the air temperature is less than 80 degrees Fahrenheit, put your can of paint in warm water. Make sure the water is between 90 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is basically the temperature of the hot water coming out of your sink. Doing this will give you a better spray pattern and less orange peel. And this can's nice and warm, so let's go paint. Now we're ready to spray our primer.
What are you doing in
Make sure you
Michigan,
read the
Sherlock?
instructions on the back of the paint can to determine what temperature range you could paint in, how far to hold the can from the wheels, and how long you have between coats. Make sure you paint in low humidity and with little to no wind. When painting, never start or stop spraying with the nozzle pointing directly at the wheel. You always want to start from the outside, go across, and end on the outside. This will help your paint job look a lot better. For your first coat, get a light, even coat, and don't worry about complete coverage. I start spraying with the can further away from the wheel, and then I move in closer until I find the sweet spot where the paint gets evenly applied to the wheel. Just like that. So now our first light coat looks awesome. Now remember to put the can back in the warm water while we wait 2 to 3 minutes between coats. 3 minutes later, let's do our second coat. On the second coat, we want to make sure that we cover all the wheel with primer. And make sure you spray at different angles to get complete coverage.
Oh,
You don't want to
that
see
thing I
any
would do
red
is
at
with
the
your-
end of this coat. Now, one thing I like to do is go around the whole outside of the rim to make sure you get coverage between the note card and the rim. And now you just have to wait another 2 minutes, and we can spray the final coat of primer. All right, on to the final coat of primer. Now's a good time to put your colored spray paint in the warm water and let it heat up. With this last coat, I'm going to slow down the motion of my arm a little bit, which will make this last coat just slightly thicker. And this will help with the orange peel. You don't want it too thick though, because then you'll get paint that runs, and that won't be good. So just finish up this last coat.
I really wouldn't give a shit.
Even and full coverage.
I really don't give a care.
Simple. All 3 coats of primer are on.
Feel like
And if you're curious,
yeah,
I use
those
about
are
1/3 of the can,
painted.
so you can easily do 2 to 3 wheels with one can. And that's doing 3 coats each. And to
Huh,
get
I
a
might
close
have
up,
to look up
you
something
can see
there.
how good this came out. The finish looks nice and smooth. And now we have about 10 minutes for the primer to be ready for our black coat. One thing I want to mention, when you take the spray paint out of the water, make sure you wipe it down good so none of the water drips onto the wheel as you're painting. Now with the color, you're going to do the exact same process we just did with the primer. Spray a light, even first coat, and don't worry about covering up all the gray. Make sure you stop and start spraying with the nozzle pointed away from the surface you're painting. Just like that. After our first coat, we wait 3 minutes and let it dry. 3 minutes later, we can hit it with a second coat. Make sure you cover up all the gray primer with this coat and spray at different angles along the wheel. Now we're done with the second coat, so let's give it 3 minutes and start our third coat. All right, we're on our final coat. For the final coat, I'm slowing down my arm just a little bit so that we can get a slightly thicker coat, just like we did for our third coat of primer. And again, I'll spray the rim at different angles to get complete coverage. And we are done. If you want, you can put a layer of clear coat on here for a glossy finish, but this black paint I use has a glossy finish without clear coat, so it saves us a step. By the way, I highly recommend this paint. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can get it. I used it to undercoat my truck, and I use it for painting all my suspension parts. It's durable, and it's just so easy to spray.
Get a
to
little
make it
horror
look
store
good.
bed for a few
Now,
bucks.
the last thing you want to do is you want to remember to pull the cards off, so they don't get stuck or peel the paint when the paint
Yes,
dries.
you can.
And don't forget about the glove tip covering the valve stem. Now this looks amazing. It has a great deep shine to it. The paint is smooth and I'm really happy with it. Now all we have to do is let it dry for 2 hours and we can put it on the car. It's gonna be a long 2 hours. Check this out. This looks so much better than before. And to make it even better, I have this small chrome center cap, which is gonna complete the look. Check out the before and the after. Look at that difference. Now you can see at the bottom here and also the side here, we have some overspray. All you have to do to get that overspray off is use an abrasive sponge. Because we use that tire shine, it comes right off. The paint job for these wheels came out awesome. And now you know how to paint your wheels so it comes out looking great. Hopefully the video was helpful. And if you try this on your own wheels, take a before and after pic and send it to me or tag me in it on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I definitely want to see your painted wheels and maybe I'll even feature it in a future video. Hey guys, Chris Fix here, and we are back with episode 3 of Project Police Interceptor, where we wire together all our police lights. We have front visor lights, we have a rear traffic visor, we have a LED light bar, we have little LEDs, and we have a dash cam, plus miles and miles of wire. I cannot wait to get this all in there and see this thing light up. Depending on the laws in your area, you might or might not be able to wire lights to your vehicle. If you're a first responder, you might be able to run red and blues, you might be able to run just blues, or you might be able to run orange lights. It all depends on your local laws. If
Like
you're not
where
a
they
first
it's orange.
responder, police officer, first
Orange
aid,
and green.
firefighter, this video is still going to show you how to wire stuff properly and just the process of building a police car.
Oh, the
All
plow
the
truck don't have a
agencies
red-
that it
you know, like,
has,
have
the little features that the
I would
P71
buy a yellow
has,
car.
and it's just kind of a unique build. Like whoever gets to build a police car, not many people, so it's pretty sweet. Now that being said, we have the permits for the state that this car is going to be used in. Now listen closely. This car specifically is being used by a police officer to go to and from work. He lives 2 hours away from where he works. He encounters many traffic accidents and many officer assists where he pretty much sees a police officer on the side of the road that needs help. That is why this car is being made. So he's always the first one there at an accident, or he's always assisting officers. He was almost hit once because his daily driver doesn't have lights on it. It's not going to be used to pull people over or whatever you guys are fantasizing about. It's strictly going to be used for assisting in accidents and assisting officers on his way to work. I think I made that pretty clear, so let's get to the fun stuff. Oh, by the way, check this out. How good do those wheels look? I need to clean up the tires and make them look black. Those rims are looking gorgeous on this car. And I'm going to have a video all on how to paint your rims. I'm going to be painting them black. This is what they used to look like. They had these cheap hubcaps. I don't really like the look on those, and neither did the officer. So we're changing it up. Underneath those hubcaps are these disgusting rims. And then after we paint and prep those rims, it turns into this. Now that video is going to be awesome, so stay tuned for that. And now that you get all the background information, let's begin episode 3 of Project Police Interceptor. So as you guys know, whenever you do a project, whether it's a big project like Project Police Interceptor or a little project like putting in a light bar, you want to outline what you're doing. So there are 5 main things we're going to be doing for this project. The first thing is going to be installing these red and blue traffic visors and also a dash cam. The second thing we're doing is mounting a rear traffic visor. This sits on the rear deck, just like that. The third thing we're doing is mounting a light bar at the front grill area. The fourth thing we're doing is we're going to mount these mini LEDs right under the bumper, which is going to look awesome. You just wait and see. And the fifth thing we're going to do is we're building a center console to mount all the controls and switches in. I'll go over how to make a center console. You'll see the whole process. But for now, it's going to house our siren box here. That's going to go like somewhere over here. There's going to be switches to control the lights right over here. And then this is going to be a compartment that could hold the gun for transportation to and from the station. All the wires from everything we're wiring up, from the visor lights to the rear traffic visor to the front lights to the siren, they're all going to be wired right here. So as we install everything, the wires will end up right here. So that's the importance of having a plan for your build. Trust me, draw it out, think it out, whatever you need to do. It'll make the project go as smooth as possible. Now let's get started. All right, the first lights we're going to mount are these front visor lights. The reason why these are called visor lights is because these clip right to where the visor meets the headliner. Pretty simple install. Firemen and EMS use these all the time. It's a hideaway type light.
slapped it
The
together.
install looks clean, so let's get it in there. All right, we'll do one visor at a time, get these out of the way, and we can see it's gonna slide right underneath this. So we just need to loosen that up just a little bit. And the same here, there's 3, we loosen that up just a little bit, and then these forks are gonna slide in just like that. All right, so let's loosen these up. And I'm gonna have thank you. And the officer is calling me. What are the odds of that? And I'm gonna have to call him back because we're getting episode 3 of Project Police Interceptor done. So we're gonna loosen up these 3 bolts that hold the visor in. Okay, so with these visor bolts loose, we can slide the lights in. Just need to slip these bad boys in there. All right, and they're in. This side looks great, but the problem is this side doesn't want to go all the way in because we have 1, 2, 3 bolts holding it in. And one of the bolts is blocking the fins from sliding in. So I'm going to trim one of the fins so we can slide it in more, and then that should work. And just make sure the end here isn't sharp because you'll cut the headliner if it is. Let's try this again. Good. Now let's tighten up the visor bolts. Get this nice and snug so it doesn't slide out. Tighten up the other one. That's 1, 2, and 3. Make sure that it's in there good. And this is solid. Now we need to remove that plastic shield that goes on here. It's protecting this. I'm going to scrape off this sticker too. And we're going to put a little piece of felt right up against the glass. So if it vibrates, it doesn't tap against the glass, it taps against the felt. It'll just make it a lot quieter. And since this is mounted in, we'll take off the screws that bolt into the actual light. Here and here. That's 1 and 2. And this slides right out. I don't know why, but I love peeling this stuff off. Now we have our felt. Gotta peel that sticky backing off and tape it right to the part that's gonna rest against the windshield, just like so. Good. And now we can slide this back in here and screw down the light. Okay. Now I want to make sure that the light sits as tight as possible up against the windshield. So I'm going to loosen up the side screws and push the light up to force it against the glass. So now with this loose, I'm pushing upwards and tightening the screws to hold it in place. That's tight, and that's tight. And that's all it takes. Now this is nice and tight. You can hit the buttons. It's not going anywhere, and it's mounted flush against the windshield. Now I'm going to fly through the other side because you know how it's done. Just like doing your first brake job. The first side takes some trial and error, and the second side goes a lot faster. All right, with the passenger side and driver's side in, we'll connect the 2 clips and tuck it into the headliner for a nice, clean, wire-free install. Before you know it, look at that. Now that looks good. With those wires tucked in, we come over here, and then we have our long wire that goes to the cigarette lighter, and we want to tuck this in right down here, and run it down all the way to the floor. We're running all our wires to the passenger side floorboard right over here. We'll start by getting it around this 8-pillar plastic molding. And basically, we want the wire to be hidden, so slip it behind the plastic and weather stripping, so it's out of sight. Run it all the way down the door. Take off the plastic trim here and here. We're going to cut the light cigarette lighter adapter because it's not what we're going to be using. Let's pull up the carpet and snake that freshly cut wire under the carpet, across. We'll put that carpet back for now. And there you go. Our first light is done. All right, so they're wired in. And the reason why we're going to the center, for the center console, is because you can see right here, these wires coming through here. Well, these wires are from the old center console that was in here. And they're hot wires, so there's 12 volts running to them. They didn't do a very good job cutting them and capping them. They should have taken them up, but that's not the point. The point is we're going to run all our wires for all our lights and all of our accessories right here for the center console, and that's how we're going to power them. Since we're still working at the front of the car, let's go install our dash camera. Every police officer needs a dash camera so that what happens is recorded. This camera shoots in HD, it's wide angled, and we're going to mount it right up here. And then we're going to take this wiring harness and we're going to run it the same way we ran it with our visor lights, all the way down. And I'm going to run it to our center console right here. Now that mirror is set up the way the officer likes it, and I think this dash cam would go great right behind the mirror, just like that. You can't see it, it's not in the way, and it's basically there, only if you ever need it. And this suction cups right to the glass, like so.
I have one of those. One's not
Gotta
big.
plug in the power cord so when the car turns on, the camera turns on. And you can see that it's aimed perfect. I just need to get a memory card for this. And we'll run the wires across the headliner, behind the A-pillar trim, and down the same way we ran the visor lights. And that's all there is to it. A nice, clean, quick install. You can't even see it. So let's move on to our next step. The rear light bar. Now our rear light bar is going to be mounted right back here. It's going to look something like this. We're going to screw it right into here. So we have to get to this deck cover here because this is just cardboard. So we want to be able to put a bolt through here with big washers so it supports it. Our cable is going to be running on the passenger side because the passenger side has a special tunnel for the cables. This plastic tunnel right here that all the cables run through. So that's why we're picking the passenger side to run the wires to the front. So in order to get to the back here, we're going to have to remove the seats. The seat bottom is really easy to pull out. You just lift up from the front and you can pull it out. Now getting this part of the seat out is a little bit more of a pain. The seat belts have to get undone. So we'll take off the passenger side seat belt first. This is an 18 millimeter. There we go. Good. Take the belt off, and now the seat bracket is loose. So let's remove the bolt from the driver's side. Good. And then the back of the seat lifts right out. Just let it slide. Now to get this deck lid off, we need to get these dreaded Christmas tree clips out. And to do this, I'm using a 10-clip pliers, which work awesome. I always used to break these Christmas tree clips, but now they pop right out. Look at that. No damage at all. So let's do the other side too. Oh. So now we're going to take this screw, which is going to go in from the top, and on the underside, we're going to use a large washer, which is going to help mount it securely by distributing any forces on the light bar over a large area, since this is only cardboard. So this whole light bar back here will be strongly secure. Now I put a piece of tape on the glass indicating the middle so we can center our traffic visor. There has to be an even amount of lights on each side for it to be centered. And there are 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 lights on each side. Now let's just make sure there's nothing under the rear deck before we drill. It looks good, but there's a speaker that we need to be careful with. Now we can drill our holes using the light bar bracket for the deck. Good. Now we can add our screws to hold it in place so we can drill the other side. Beautiful. And the bolts slide right in. Now I'm going to use a piece of wood to prop this deck up. And I'm tightening down some nuts on those bolts so it'll hold it in place. And this is what it looks like all tightened in. Now let's go tighten down the other side. That's 1 tightened. And 2 tightened. And we're going to need this anymore. So let's put these 2 clips back in place. That's 1. And that's 2. Now I want to snake this wire behind the plastic panel here to hide it. And that looks real clean. And I'll do this the whole way down to the floor. And now I'm just tucking the wire out of sight. Now if we look under the carpet here on the passenger side, there's a hidden tube to run wires through. But our wire has a big cigarette lighter adapter on it. So let's cut that off since we're not using it. And we'll run the wire all the way to the front. Just snake the wire through here until it won't go anymore. At the front, here's our wire, and we can pull it the rest of the way through. Nice. So there we go. The wire runs neatly tucked away down the side here, through the tube from the rear, to the front of the car. Now to get the seat back in, I need to make sure the middle seat belt is over the seat, just like that. Otherwise, you can't use that seat belt. And if we look behind the seat, there's a spot to put the seat in place. I just need to get it to hook. There we go. And I'll do the same for the other side. Good. Now I need to tighten down the nut that holds the seatbelt on. And whenever you tighten down the nuts or bolts for the seatbelt, make sure you torque them. Just like so. Both sides get torqued to 70 foot-pounds. And that's secured. Now we can install our seat. And the cushion slides right into these two clips. So close. Good. And good. I really had to put some backbone into the seat cushion, but it's in. Alright, that looks awesome. We got it wired up, nice and neat. The seat is back in, the wiring is all running up to here, and our dash cam and visor lights are installed. Now we have some stuff at the front of the car we need to install, and that stuff is a light bar and some mini LEDs. I'm taking up the siren because it's going to be in the way of our light bar, which goes right behind the grill, just like that. Now I'm going to mark the holes for the light bar mount with a marker. There's one. We'll go to the other side. And here's the other. Now we can remove the light bar to drill the holes. This bit fits perfectly in the light bar mounting hole, so let's get drilling. It's going to be tough to get the drill in here because it's so tight. So instead, remember to work with the car. Let's take this grill out. Now we have all the space we need. Now let's see how good of a job we did aligning this. Beautiful. Let's screw this in here to align this side. And the other side lines up too. Great. Now we can snug down these screws. Good. And good. So with our light bar in the way, we need a new place to mount the siren. I'm thinking right off to the side here will be perfect. So let's mark up the holes to drill. I'm going to make that a little bit darker just because you can barely see it. And now let's drill them out. Now I'm going to mount the siren in place. It's tight in here, but let's get these bolts in. And the nut on. Can't forget about the bottom one. Man, that is tight. Got it. So with the siren in place, to better access the bolts from down here, we're going to remove the headlight. You saw me do this in the first episode, and it's pretty simple. Just got to remove these clips. Man, that was a tough one. Now the headlight comes right out.
Oh!
Now we have easy access to tighten the bolts. Awesome. And now the siren is secured in its new location. It's a good thing that we're relocating the siren so that the siren isn't blocking the radiator. And since we have a light bar up front now, we don't want any more air blocked. So moving this off to the side worked out nicely. Okay, now let's get this headlight back in place and slide in the two clips.
That's gonna work out. Get over a mile.
Put the grill back on. Let's install the mini LEDs. So these lights have a bracket which comes bent. You can see it right here. It's bent. But we want it to look like this, where it's nice and flat. So I'm going to bend all the brackets so they're flat. Just like so. That way, when we mount them, the lights will sit flat against the bumper. Now, under the crown plate, you can see the bumper already has holes. So I'm going to
dismantle it now.
And I'm going to align the bumper hole with the light bracket hole. And then I'll just drill the other side. This way,